and they've got the blue clone lieutenant looking over in the top right of they got Star, and then it's oh, it's Star Wieners. No, it says Star and then WNRS instead of Wars. But like the A, the N has got that like A design on it. And when you click on it, you can't actually buy that anymore.
Yeah.
You used to be able to literally buy that set with all that branding on it like that. You can't. This looks more like box now. So they've cleaned up their act a little bit because I know they got in a ton of trouble because they're literally counterfeit. Hello, bricks, chicks, and minifigures. You are listening to AFOLs Welcome, where we talk about all things Lego from the perspective of two adult collectors. We are your co-host. I'm Grinch.
And I'm West.
And today we will be talking about one of our most requested conversations of all time. And by most requested, I mean like 2 people have asked us to do this because we're still a new podcast. So please follow, subscribe, leave a review, tell your friends about us. But today we're going to be talking about Lego versus fake Lego. But before we get into that, I just had a quick PSA. I will actually be at Brick World Grand Rapids. West is still maybe at this point, but I will definitely be there. So if you're planning on attending Brick World Grand Rapids over September 13th to 15th, I will be there on that Saturday. Definitely, I'm going to try to stay for the full day. I will definitely be there from like open, like the first 4 hours for sure. For sure. I will try to stay there the full day. So if you were planning on going, you're like, I want to go talk to Grinch. Try to get there early too on Saturday. And I will be wearing a bright yellow AFOLs Welcome shirt. So please stop by. I'm not going to have a booth or anything. I'll just be a member of the crowd. But if anybody wants to stop by and say hi, I would love to talk to you. Wes, did you have any PSAs before we move over to the exciting Lego news?
No, but we are excited to try this out, and we hope to show up to a few more Brit conventions in the future. So depending on Grinch's experience, he's kind of trialing this for both of us. We'll see how this goes, and as long as he's walks away and he's not too bruised and from the mobs of Lego
from all 7 of our listeners. I'm joking. I'm just keeping it real.
And I am too. No, we're excited to get out there and meet you guys and chat in person and hopefully and just kind of continue our adult Lego discourse. So yeah, let's press with our next topic.
Let's move over to some exciting Lego news. Exciting Lego news. All right, so West, there wasn't a lot of like new set announcements. I mean, there was one pretty big one that we'll get to. But what I have on here is Lego announced a new multi-year partnership with Nike. We got some new Animal Crossing sets. Lego Mario Kart was revealed.
The Animal Crossing
Lego Mario
one was
Kart.
The big announcement.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. Totally. We're trolling. And then just as a reminder, the September 1st releases will be out here in the next week. So new Lego sets will be on the shelf if you are interested in those. So Wes, did you see this bit on the Nike partnership?
Yeah, I just saw Lego's release video on Instagram that they put out. It seems really, really cool. They've been partnering with different apparel companies. They did Adidas and Levi's earlier over the last couple of years. And so Nike makes sense. That's fun. I'm curious to see what they put out. I don't know if we need to have another buildable shoe, but I
mean, Air Jordan would be sweet. Some Jordans, huh? Or Air Forces.
Oh, shoot. That actually, yeah, like a Nike Air Force One with like a Lego Air Force One. Yeah, dang it. I could see that. That could be pretty cool too, actually. If, like the Adidas one. done right. So
I do think it's interesting because the Adidas was 2 years ago, and it like nothing really happened from that. I think Adidas made a pair of like Lego shoes, right? That were kind of,
yeah, there's
you
like a
know,
big one and a small
quirky.
one, and
No,
then
like they made an actual shoe you could wear too,
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it was like blue, yellow, red, green. I mean, it was like every color of the Lego palette.
Well, it was like all the primary colors.
Yeah,
Well, I
I
guess
don't know.
not if there was
It was
green, but
for
um,
somebody who was a fashion caring enough person to go out and buy a specific pair of shoes. I don't know who would have. I've
they
never
were
seen those shoes
very
anywhere.
flashy.
They were tacky.
Yeah, it'd be one of those
No
where you're
offense
like,
to anybody who got them.
if you saw like the model from the image wearing them, you're like, oh, that looks cool. I think I could maybe pull that off. And then you buy them, and you're like, I can't pull that off at all.
Then you see them in the store and you're like, nah, never mind.
Yeah, I do not have the riz to pull that off.
Yes. Yeah, only if you
Um,
do. Only if
for
you
our
do.
Gen Alpha listeners out there.
I do think this Nike one is interesting because it seems like it's more about elevating play. And I guess that makes sense from like a Nike perspective. They're like, we want people to get outside and play. And Lego's like, we just want people to play. Which is kind of interesting because we'll be talking about a little bit of like competition for Lego today in our topic in some regards, where it's like, technically Lego competes with, movies, right? And they compete with going to the mall and stuff like that in some degree. So you'd think if people are playing outside, they're not necessarily playing with Lego. So it'll be it'll be interesting to see how they bring this to life.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that you could see with like a Lego Nike partnership could be leaning into just Nike's general push of activities in sport, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, Nike has a huge foothold, no pun intended, in the track and field industry, and the American track and field finals for the United States are always held out. Well, I don't want to say always. I believe they are held out in Beaverton, Oregon, though, hosted by Nike at the Nike facility.
Which Nike
Where,
is headquartered in Portland, for anybody wondering.
yep. And so I think that is something where we could maybe see, maybe like some track and field focused sets or one off, kind of things. I think that would actually be kind of cool. I mean, you don't need to necessarily have like somebody running like hurdles, but, we already had the javelin thrower in the CMF series.
Mm-hmm.
If you had someone doing shot put and someone maybe doing like pole vault or something, that could be kind of cool. Maybe like a limited series on sort of these like historical events.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was,
I'm trying to think of just other ways other than shoes that
yeah.
we could see Nike, really kind of get involved. So,
Interesting timing for us because we just talked about sports last week. And of
yeah,
course,
absolutely.
a lot of that sports stuff was more Adidas and Spalding focused.
Yeah,
Spalding, who's the basketball? Spalding, right? Is the
Spalding.
basketball company? Yeah, because it was NBA and then FIFA, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think this necessarily equates to a reemergence or rebirth of like Lego sports as a whole. But it certainly is an avenue that could allow them to do something different or new in that area.
There's a lot of possibilities. I think if I were to put a bet down, or if I were a betting man rather, I would bet on something more like a buildable Nike Air Force One,
Mm-hmm.
or like another Levi's style Nike Lego clothes brand
Yeah,
connection than anything else. So
I could too. I could too. All right, so we'll keep an eye on that, and of course, if anything major happens, we'll talk about it here. So up next, we had the Animal Crossing sets. West, I don't have a ton on here. I'm not really an Animal Crossing person. I just think it's interesting that there are only 3 sets here for a relatively new theme. I don't have a gauge on how well this is selling. All I'll really say is I don't see a ton of people posting about it on Reddit. I don't see a ton of people posting about like Lego Animal Crossing on social media. I don't really see any YouTube videos about it often. I also don't look for it, and maybe the algorithm's just getting the better of me. But what are your thoughts with these new sets?
No, I think that's a really great point and observation. Like you said, it's impossible for us to know how well stuff's selling. Lego's pretty notorious on keeping that data very close hold. Although you start to read the signs that something isn't selling as well, second, third wave releases, right? Seeing some of the um, size of the releases
Mm-hmm.
getting smaller, right? Both in set scale, but also in the number of sets being released. So that's a pretty good intention of, or a pretty good indication of how much Lego believes in that different wave, right? So, or the perceived exposure of that wave towards that larger audience that they're trying to achieve.
Right.
So, for example, right, we got one Andor set, and truthfully, too, Andor's a tough one, but a good example of where Lego probably didn't think that we would um, the appeal there, and who knows, right? Maybe something like that is actually between Andor or Lego and Disney.
Right.
But a good example too of sort of like with the Skeleton Crew, right? We have one set. We didn't get a single set for Acolyte. We got a couple.
Bummer.
We got a bunch of sets for Ahsoka, so it looks like they thought that show would do a lot better than it did. We got a few sets for Obi-Wan, same sort of thought process, right? They
Mm-hmm.
thought the show would do a lot better than it would, and then it didn't. So I think it's interesting to see that kind of dichotomy. Um, as for Animal Crossing itself, I would agree. I don't see much or very many people commenting on it or posting on it. And I think that kind of shows you the limitation of those video game based sets, right? It's really hard to, in an environment where you as the player are manipulating the world, which is kind of how we interact with Lego too.
Right.
How you're taking that, you're trying to capture a moment in that experience and then build it in Lego, but you don't ultimately get the second, third order payoffs that the actual video game has. So I just, I see those kind of being dust collectors on shelves where people who are really nostalgic for the theme buy them and they think they're really neat. And then they just put it on the shelf or it goes into a bin and, something else happens. I,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't see people playing Animal Crossing with the Lego Animal Crossing sets. So,
This sometimes for me, like some of these IPs, like I feel like as somebody who doesn't play Animal Crossing, I've always known what it is, but I feel like it's started, and we kind of alluded to this and maybe talked a little bit about it with Fortnite, but it just seems like sometimes the corporate life cycle and production cycle, yeah, can really get in the way of some of these things because I remember, and I don't know why. I just, if I was hearing about it, other people are hearing about it, right? I'm
mhm.
not necessarily keeping up with Animal Crossing news, but like 3 or 4 years ago, I was hearing a lot more about Animal Crossing than I am now. Now, recently, I've heard a little bit more about it because of Lego, but I feel like it might be a few years too. They kind of like we talked about Fortnite, where it's like, the peak popularity of Fortnite was back in 2018. Now it's certainly made a resurgence, and it's peak is up here, and the baseline of it is still incredibly high for Fortnite. But it's it's almost like, is this a little bit too late at this point? Because we talked about how that kind of target audience, it felt like some of those Fortnite sets were less about the play and more display. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, if people who were playing it, you know, 6 years ago are now 6 years older, so they might be more kind of geared towards an adult, right? So sometimes I think that just kind of production, approval, life cycle of a big corporation like Lego can get in the way of some of these things.
Now, I will say, I think talking about crossover opportunity for video games, something like Animal Crossing or Fortnite might. I mean, we saw that with Overwatch, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
it just really didn't develop in a way I think Lego expected it or wanted it to. which is I don't know, the only conclusion I think we can safely draw, because why would Lego put out a product if they didn't think it was going to succeed? I mean,
Right.
so assuming, right, that Lego is a rational actor in that capacity, we can assume that they sort of expected this to be a popular theme. They're not putting money down towards different and new molds just to try it.
Right. I mean, and a lot of these have a ton of new molds too, right? Like all the
I mean,
characters.
that's money that Lego is investing, right? I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
because you can make a creator theme or wave that's just using already built out pieces, and the cost to Lego is the price of the designer, who's,
Right.
their salary, right? But if you're building new molds, that's new tooling, new machinery. Potentially it wouldn't be new machinery, right, but certainly new moldings,
A new
and
mold. Yeah.
that's going to cost money, and you're
It
going to
would.
have to design those and engineer them. And we all know, thanks to Elon Musk, that Lego has very tight tolerances when it comes to engineering, and so that's a lot of time that's put into creating new pieces. So I think it's interesting to see that be the case. What I was trying to get at before I went on my tangent, apologies, is that I still think, and I know this has been like a very popular opinion, but like something like Pokemon could really translate well into Lego,
Yeah.
because you can sort of build a story off of that without getting sucked into the narrative or the game mechanics too much, right? And I think there are certain games that probably would translate into Lego better than, say, something like Overwatch or Fortnite, where the gameplay itself doesn't really translate. So
You know, I know we'll talk. We'll have to do an episode on Overwatch at some point because I think that was just a series of unfortunate events because Overwatch, when those sets came out, Overwatch was dying, but they
yeah,
were also coming out with Overwatch 2, which was being hyped. So I think from Lego's perspective, they're like, yeah, we're a little late, but let's do it. And then Overwatch 2 will be out and everyone's going to love it because everybody loved the first one and that's all they need. And then like Overwatch 2 was just abysmal and effing terrible and COVID happened and it got delayed and um, but I see what you're saying. Like with Pokemon, the world of Pokemon is already so developed between like Pokemon Battle Stadium and then the Pokemon trading card game and then the actual Pokemon gotta catch 'em all, Nintendo games, right? On the Game Boy and 3DS and I guess now the Switch, right? Or whatever it's on. Whereas like this is purely just one, the world's less built out here, right? And it's more like structurally you have to be very kind of particular in how you're building the sets to keep it on brand. Whereas the brand of Pokemon, you can just have a Pikachu.
right.
You can
Well, and
just have a
not
Charizard.
not only that, but the game mechanics of Pokemon are very broad,
Right.
right? You can collect them, you can battle them, you
We're
can
going
take
on an
care of them,
adventure. Right.
right? Whereas something like Animal Crossing or Overwatch or Fortnite, right? It's a battle royale. Like,
Right.
I mean, unless you just sort of imagine and play battle royale with your Fortnite figures, like, what else do they do? So I think,
Which you will never do better than just playing Fortnite.
right, exactly. And so then at that point, what is the point or purpose of engaging in that Lego set
Right.
if you would just rather do the thing that the Lego set was representing? And that's kind of what I'm curious to see, if that's what's going on with Animal Crossing right now, where it's just not getting it over that target, or that degree of independent play, where it's
Right.
sort of parallel to its IP, but it can be its own thing, right? And again, that's where something like, I feel like Pokemon could happen really, really easily, whereas something like Fortnite or Animal Crossing probably can't. But again, Lego probably doesn't have as much say in some of these
Right.
partnerships, or maybe it's something as simple as Lego getting the partnership and then being like, "Oh yeah, let's give this a try," right? Who knows? But yeah,
I think that's where Star Wars lends itself to like being such a successful Lego IP, arguably the most successful. Is like you see it on screen and then it's like, oh, let's go do that, right? Because it's a movie. It's not like you can add to the canon by
yeah,
playing, right?
and
And I suppose you can to Animal Crossing too, but like it leaves so much more to be like. look at that big fleet. I want to go make a big fleet and just make my own
Well,
epic battle.
yeah, I mean, to be, really um, sort of kind of, hoity-toity about this, right? This
Hmm.
experience is, it's fleeting, right? It's the experience of playing Fortnite is ephemeral, and you're doing this like battle royale thing, and it's done. And that was that experience, and now you get another one, right? It's why something like Call of Duty probably wouldn't translate super well, or Counter Strike or something like that into Lego either.
You take that back about Counter Strike.
But I think those experiences that a player has, right? Like you get so excited about that experience that you had, but you don't get to recreate that experience, right? You get to rewatch the movie. You can replay the movie with your Lego characters. You can then build your own storyline with the characters, right? Or you can reenact that thing. But what happened in that one Fortnite battle can't necessarily get recreated.
Yeah.
uh, I at least I don't think so. I don't think that's how kids engage with those toys. But I feel like we've kind of really pulled at this string long enough. Speaking
Well,
of
I
video
think I
game
think we
adaptations, though,
I I think we have a good topic for the future. I just wrote it down. Like Lego is video games is Lego, right? Because Lego's also done video games. But yes,
yeah,
speaking of Lego video games or video games and Lego, I think the big reveal for all the lack of reveals that we had a pretty big one, and that is Lego Mario Kart. We were teased with this a couple of months ago, and there's a lot here. West, what's your initial reaction to this?
one initial reaction I thought was they were a little bigger than I expected them to be. The
Hmm.
sets themselves, I liked that it looked like we weren't getting minifigures, but we got minifigure bodies, and then there was a lot of like built up heads, which was really
Uh,
interesting.
no, this is the same style that they've been doing.
Yes, but are they not on smaller bodies?
Nope, they're the exact same. Like this toad
They're
is the exact same toad. It's different printing on it, but
oh
it's still
sure.
like those like minion feet. It's the same. It's the same exact size and scale. The DK is almost a repeat, I believe.
Yes, but like the Luigi is different.
That's a baby Luigi.
Oh,
So it's meant to
excuse
be a
me.
smaller version. Yeah, it's meant to be a
I
smaller
see.
version of the playable
My
one. Yeah. So
Mario.
these are. That's okay. That's why
Yeah.
I'm here, buddy. I pick up
No,
your
no,
slack,
thank
you
you.
pick up
Thank
mine.
you.
Yeah, no, the toads are the same, and then there's Baby Pete. It was interesting. I mean, that's some of the conversation I've had that's been so interesting is that
Yeah.
a lot of these characters they went with the baby versions, probably to get them in the carts. I don't know.
I did see there were still the tags, right? Like they're not QR codes, but like the
Yeah, the
bar
little. Mhm.
tags, barcodes on there. So clearly it was meant to um, be incorporated into that larger system of play that we've already kind of talked through
Correct.
our own thoughts about that limitation. I don't know. I mean, I think this is the thing that Lego fans have wanted from Lego Mario for a long, long time. And I understand Lego being sort of reluctant to sort of let their this golden goose egg of an opportunity like out of the bag on the first blush, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think there's something to that from like a business perspective of like if you've got this winner, like, but you also have some stuff that you want to try first too, like don't just lead with the winner because you need something to again, especially if you're trying to sort of think long term and build out these long term brands, right? That Lego is always trying to do it. Like again, it's very rare that Lego comes out and says like this is a limited run. In fact, I don't think they've ever really said like this is a limited run. I would assume every time they start a new IP or a new theme in Lego, they are intending to continue this into its evergreen stage,
Yeah.
much like Harry Potter and Star Wars now. Not all of them get to that point, right? So, in fact, just like in the natural world, a bunch of them get 2 to 3 years in and die off, and it's very rare that you get one to this like that maturity of evergreen stage. I don't know if Mario is really getting to that point, but it does feel like they kind of breathed a little new life into this theme by coming out with Lego Mario Kart. But I don't know. Maybe is it too little, too late, Grinch? What do you think?
Honestly, some of the discourse that I've seen and my own thoughts is I was excited about these, and these are a little bit of a letdown. A lot of the conversation I've seen has been around people being like, "I'll get maybe one set," but for me, I think the big opportunity here was like, if you went back to Lego 20, 30 years ago, we used to get small four wide cars all the time, right?
Yeah,
And for me, putting minifigures on that would be excellent, right? And it's not like, you know, I get that some of these are brick built probably because it's a little bit easier to design them that way, but at the same time, like we got like the Muppets CMF, right? Like we've got like, I mean, just look at this Dungeons and Dragons CMF with all the characters they were able to build there. I would have much rather seen this in minifigures form. And I think what's ultimately going to happen is this is going to just be more of the same at the end of the day, right? If you don't like that old system because it's not minifigure based, you're probably not going to like this system. And my guess is that maybe, a couple people will buy into this system because they're excited about the Mario Kart aspect, kind of like I did with that initial Mario wave, and then be like, I actually don't really care too much about this.
yeah.
That's just my thought. I do think it's still a miss because it is just so similar to what they were doing in the past.
I think it's odd that the Mario theme still has not seen a CMF line. And I'm starting to wonder maybe if there's a
It could be
licensing
IP challenges. Yeah, yeah.
issue with that, right? I mean, that was the original argument as to why those Lego. Remember back in the day, we went to the Lego store in Orlando and we
Mm-hmm.
got those there. This was had to have been in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
We got one of the sets. We did it with the ninjas, and I think we did it with Star Wars. There was the
Mm-hmm.
bad guy one, and then there was, I think there's either a couple of the bad guy ones and then like the good guy ones or whatever. But it was like, it had to have been 2000, 2001, right? And it was sort of a proto CMF series.
Yeah.
And Lego got in a lot of trouble with that, allegedly, because Hasbro had the rights to Star Wars minifigure or action figures.
Unconfirmed. Unconfirmed.
Yeah. And so I'm wondering if something like this is going on with Mario, where Lego literally can't build them into minifigures, because I'm kind of feeling like at this point, like that has to be the reason why Lego hasn't given us Mario minifigures, because Lego's a pretty smart company, and I feel like they give the people what they want. So it seems odd to me that they would be missing this that much. Either that or somebody in corporate was just like, no, we're working this new system of play and I will not hear anything about minifigures. Like it feels
which
like
is
there's,
which is a possibility. It's
yeah,
sometimes it is that
absolutely.
simple where it's just like this was one person made a mountain out of this molehill and like they're gonna
Yeah.
die on it because if they do, they can't admit that they made a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, who knows, right? But like, I feel like we're kind of teetering on this sort of territory where that type of speculation feels more and more reasonable than just, oh, Lego's trying something new, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
again, and we'll probably never know unless somebody from the company leaves because they're so upset that one of the bosses just did not want a Mario minifigure, and he's like, I'm done, and I'm gonna go and tell everybody that this was really dumb.
Yeah.
And anyways,
Yeah. No, I mean,
playing
it
this out in my
honestly,
head, it does feel very like realistic at this point.
we'll talk offline because I can't share this story. But we'll talk offline.
Did you have a similar
Okay.
situation like that in your work?
No, no, no,
Okay, I
no. But
will
I've
say,
heard of some stories about like where other people work,
yeah.
and it's like literally it's just that simple. Where it's like
I,
somebody is like, we can't do that because like it just doesn't make any sense. Like guys, that's not a thing, And then you're like,
Right.
no, that like literally, like
Yeah,
bring me the data. And
it's
you're
a
like,
case
okay,
of
well, how do I bring you the data that everybody wants Lego? It's like when you're a kid and your friends have cell phones and you're like, Mom, I want a cell phone. And they're like, well, why do you need one? Because everybody has one. Or like, well, just because everybody has one doesn't mean you need one. And you're just like, okay. Because you said so, I got it.
yeah. No, it's definitely I think there's probably a pretty good chance that this is a case of like the tail wagging the dog, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, who's the tail in this situation and what is the tail? Could be a person, could be some sort of corporate policy, could be, Hasbro out there going like, nope, we will sue you as soon as you release minifigures. Like, who knows, what's going
Yeah.
on. But anyways, it's
Um,
exciting to see that branch out a little bit more. I do think there's a miss. Remember, they had that stunts series with the pullback racers, and they had the
yeah.
ramps and the
Yeah, that would
loops.
be,
Like,
that'd be great.
incorporate that stuff into it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that stuff in Lego Mario form seems like that would be really fun. And I don't know, like, how are you going to incorporate those larger figures into this? There's just like a lot of questions. I don't know. I'd be curious to see what Lego puts together. Maybe they have a whole new version of this thing that like we just don't even know about yet. I don't know, but I don't think so.
I will be watching these ones closely. Again, it's the same exact DK that we've already gotten, right?
Yeah,
It's the same Toads, just unique. Blue Yoshi, got it. Baby Mario, Baby Luigi, they're new. And then a Baby Peach, right? And I forget what that one thing's name. It's like the little Bowser thing with the mohawk, but it'll be interesting. I do feel like too, like if I'm going down the Target aisle, I always see this in stock. I like it, Star Wars might be a little bit picked through, Harry Potter's a little bit picked through, and then it's just like perfectly in stock for this, or they're all on clearance and people still aren't buying them.
yeah. I mean, there's some great pieces that have come out from the Mario line, so I think we at least owe Lego Mario
Mm-hmm.
that
There
much.
are some
But
good pieces. Yep. I didn't have this on the news, but I did just recall too. There was a poinsettia that was leaked, or not leaked, but it was found
mm,
in stores as part of the botanicals. So there should be some images floating around out there if anybody wants to see that. And then
that was one
anything
of
on that?
the Brick Clicker's many mispronunciations, which I think at this point are drawing me to his channel more than just his Lego news. The way he mispronounced Pocahontas a few months ago was just
Oh gosh, what do you say?
hilarious. I mean, I appreciate everything he's doing. Although he's been really quiet recently, so. But I think he mentioned the poinsettias for the botanical collection, which I think are really fun. So
Yeah.
a really nice holiday flower. It'd be fun to see other, different variations on that too. But
Hmm.
Grinch, I think we had one more. We were going to talk about September
Yep.
releases, correct?
So September releases that are coming out, just as a more of a PSA, as a reminder: Nightmare Before Christmas, the new UCS Burrow. We talked about the Borgen and Burke's Flu Network. It looks like there's also a smaller Malfoy poly bag if you buy $40 worth of Harry Potter. And then there is, only if you buy the Burrow, there's like a Weasley clock collector's item. It's not a Lego set. It looks like a metal with gold paint clock thing.
Mm,
Um, I don't know. I guess that's interesting. But then also, Advent calendars are releasing. The Legend of Zelda, The Legend of Zelda,
the
The
Legend
Legend
of
of Zelda,
Zelda.
The Legend of Zelda, Zelda, Great Deku Tree, and then a couple of Minecraft. Oh my gosh, I like this last sentence has been rough.
Yeah,
And
I
then
think we're
the
done. That
the
and
uh,
that's a wrap.
the Dungeons and Dragoons collectibles, manifigures. No, Dungeons and Dragons collectible minifigures are also coming out September 1st. So just as a PSA, those will be out soon.
And remember, this is one I think that's dropped off a lot of people's radar, but the Jabba's sail barge should be releasing here shortly too. We're
Yeah, I don't
getting
think we've had a reveal yet, right?
no, we're getting to the time of year, probably at this point in October release would be
Mm-hmm.
my guess. But I'm thinking back to when the Star Destroyer a few years ago, what was that, 2019 was announced, and that was announced like over the Labor Day weekend, and then I think was available on October 1st. So I think we're probably expecting something very similar for the sail barge this year. But I think Star Wars has had a really weak summer. I think the Ahsoka line being released has been really quiet, and the make the galaxy great again series. That's not what it's called, but um, building together,
Rebuild the galaxy, restore the galaxy, or rebuild
rebuild
the
the
galaxy.
galaxy, rebuild the galaxy great again. I that series is kind of coming and going with another whimper there too. We had talked about the Dark Millennium Falcon being exciting and the Jedi Bob Starfighter being exciting, and they all are. I mean, I've seen the reviews; they seem pretty neat. I think the Tie Fighter X-wing mashable thing was interesting, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how this all plays out, like long term, but yeah, I think it doesn't seem like there's as much of a fever pitch over some of the Star Wars stuff that we used to have. I don't know if the audience is just starting to get a little cool on it, but the sail barge I think should be a really exciting UCS to see. So one
Yeah.
that we've I think only had in Lego set form once, right, from the early teens.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be cool. Anyways,
I think we will talk more about the year to come next week.
yeah.
Next week, we're gonna kind of do a fun episode where we talk about like what to expect from 2025. Just kind of recap what we've got for the rest of the year, and then we're gonna make some kind of guesses before we know it here. Probably in the next month, like West is suggesting, we'll get a couple of 2025 sets announced or revealed or leaked. We've already got some set names, so we wanted to get that one out early. So that's the news for this week. Let's go ahead and push over to our main topic. Today's topic.
Yeah.
So this week we are talking all about Lego versus fake Lego. And what we mean, as I guess just to establish a bit of a definition here, what we mean by fake Lego is a construction brick toy, right? So mega constructs to Lepin, right? Now we'll take it a step further, and I'd say Mega is definitely its own company, whereas Lepin is a counterfeit company. And I think we're gonna work our way down to that definition as we have this conversation. One other thing I'd like to just kind of identify or describe before we really get into the conversation is what a Lego purist is. Spoiler alert, I would argue that I am a Lego purist, and that's somebody who really only buys this category, only buys a quote unquote construction toy because it's Lego. So, West, is there anything you wanted to kind of to get in front of before we got started?
No. I think those definitions are spot on, and I think those are going to form the framework, right, of the conversation that we have. So I don't know if we're going to get more precise with those definitions, but I think that's important to acknowledge up front, right? A competitor for Lego, like you said, is someone like Mega Bloks, Connects, um, uh, Kobe, right?
Kobe. Yep.
Whereas somebody who is blatantly ripping them off would be really just a copyright issue. I think
Right.
as we talk about this, certainly there's a lot of feelings about Lego and reasons why people I think engage with some of their competitors, but I think we'll kind of address all of that as we go in the conversation. So
So I think that's a good place to start, West. Why do you think people engage with some of the competitors? I can really point to two reasons, but curious what your thoughts are.
yeah, I mean, I think the first reason is price, right? I mean, we hear that a lot of
Mm,
people saying Lego's expensive. And so when you have a competitor that has you know, it's the UCS Millennium Falcon, but it's $400 instead of $700, I think that entices them to go and buy that version of it. Or, you
right.
know, I think we've seen some of the different companies right now release sets that are sort of in the same line as Lego, but they're doing so at an intensity or frequency that's a lot faster, right? So somebody might be releasing, 3 or 4 modulars, whereas Lego's only releasing one a year.
Hmm.
And so I think that's something too that kind of gets people interested in it, some variety
Right.
outside of the norm for Lego. But I don't know. What about you, Grinch? What's yours? What are your
Yeah, I
thoughts?
was gonna say I think there's really two reasons that people will buy non-Lego construction toys, and I think number one, it's a price. There's a retired set, UCSB wing or whatever, and Lepin makes the Star Warriors edition or whatever, and like literally just copy and paste the brick art, but or the box art, and then changes the name or something. Um, and so the Ultimate Collector series, it's the Ultimate Edition series or something like that, right? And
Yeah.
so I think some of it's a retired sets or even a currently a sought after set that's currently on the market, and then I think the other reason, which I think is a more justified and truly justified and truly fair version, is just because Lego doesn't make it, right? So like Kobe Bricks, for example, specializes in Lego military vehicles, and Lego will not make those. So they have their own bricks, they have their own standards of production. I hear anecdotally from other people that it's normally a lot less quality, but you know and again, price might still not be an issue in this case. It's just more of like, we'll get to one of the brick mails later, but I'm going to use it as an example. We want an F-15 fighter jet, and Lego won't make that. So Kobe makes it, and I want to go get it from Kobe.
Yeah. No, I think that was the one that came to me as you were sharing your first thought too, that really it's where Lego doesn't make things
Mm-hmm.
that we see people kind of engage, right? And it's not only counterfeit or fake Lego, right? I mean, what was that company that creates? Is it Brick Arms that creates their own
Yeah,
Lego weapons molds that fit Lego figures that
yeah.
sort of get added to? So, right, you have a lot of, you go to any sort of Lego convention, there's always going to be a military component there, whether it's sort of the modern military stuff, or World War II seems to be a very popular theme in Lego, and they have all sorts
Mm-hmm.
of reprints of characters and bodies and weaponry that's more realistic, and things like medical kits and MREs, or meals in a
Right.
can or something for
A
characters.
car 98K because you need a historically accurate weapon and not just a
Mhm.
microphone turned backwards with another microphone attached to it.
Yeah, exactly, right. So there's certainly, I think, some um, reasons why some of this stuff exists, but yeah.
All
So I
right.
guess
So
let's get into it.
I think let's go from here, and I think the next part of the conversation we'll talk more about that. Um, I wanted one more quick disclaimer. This is obviously my opinion and obviously West's opinion. Um, where I draw my line, just saying this up front, is when legality is involved, I have a firm no, right? Whereas there are some very good and justifiable companies out there. The history behind some of this conversation is Lego famously patented the Lego brick, right? And then they lost that patent in the 90s because it was never redone. I believe they still have a patent for minifigures, which is why you don't, like Mega doesn't make their own minifigures. Kobe has their own style of minifigures, right? If you truly want a Lego minifigure, it has to be Lego. That patent's still valuable. But in the 90s, you saw an explosion, connects. Mega Blocks, right? There's a couple other I just can't think of right now that all came about during that time because Lego lost their patent, and it almost bankrupted Lego. Actually, they started to get some competition in this space that Lego never really had. So it's not a single attributing factor that or contributing factor that made Lego go bankrupt, but it's certainly one of them that caused some additional pressure on them in the mid to late 90s. So um, let's talk about some of these companies next, Wes. So the way I see it is you have, a complete competitor like Mega and Kobe, for example. You have a
Hmm.
counterfeit brand like Lepin, where they're not, and I do think they do some of their own stuff, but most of what I see from Lepin is literally a copy and paste, and they change around the Star Wars logo so Disney doesn't get involved. They even their logo is very close to Lego's logo and is a pure and pure counterfeit. And then you do see other just smaller counterfeits of like people making their own minifigures and trying to sell them on eBay. And then I think that the third part of the company is, so I think competitors, counterfeit, and then you have the added experiences, right? The complementary. Oh my gosh, I did not intend to make three C's there. Competitor, counterfeit, complementary, right? You've got the complementary brands like a lighting kit company that might even
Hmm.
use Lego in their bricks, but they add electrical wires to them so that you can light up your sets, or brick arms that make a custom 3D printed or however they manufacture their accurate M1 Garand so that you have that in your mock. So
Yeah.
I think those are the three kind of key points here, Wes. What stands out to you?
Well, I mean, I think I think you already said it for you. For me, where I fall on this is I I don't engage in any. I would also describe myself as a purist. I don't really engage in any of the complementary brands or the
Mhm.
was complimentary your first one or was that your third one?
Competitive,
Competitors. That's right. No, so
competitive.
I don't really engage in any of the competitive brands at all.
Mhm.
So I have always been a Lego purist and probably always will be. Even when those brands have things that are interesting to me, like
Game of Thrones,
well, Mega Bloks has the license to Pokemon right now, right? Like,
right?
and you can see that in store. I'm not gonna go buy a Mega Bloks Pokemon ball. Like, I'll just go build that out of Lego. Like, there's
But
plenty of
you will be there
instructions on.
day one at the Lego brand store should they ever come out with Lego Pokemon.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't even part of that is sort of irrational to some extent. Like, I'll acknowledge that. But I do think as we get away from the competitors and complementary things, I don't have any of like the light my brick stuff. I wouldn't even really call that fake Lego at this point, but um I don't engage in that too much because I know if I start to, I probably won't be able to stop. And those are, another $15 to $20 of Lego kits on
Hmm.
top of the already expensive Lego kit that you bought. And, then to what end, right? So,
Yeah. What at what point, like if you've got a Lego display, do you just like if you got all your modulars in a line, do you only light one of them, or do you have to light every single one of them, and then you're
yeah.
putting another $20 to $30 into every modular that you own?
Well, and, you know, I mean, I don't know. The Christmas Village with the light up kits probably looks really great. But
I bet that gingerbread house looks good too.
yeah, I think there's certainly some, yeah, anyways, don't need to talk
Uh
myself
oh.
into
Uh
spending more
oh.
money
Uh oh.
on
Uh oh.
Lego.
I think I I hear what you're saying. That's not fake Lego. I brought it up as like it is always kind of in this conversation or
Sure.
around this conversation because it's easy. It's a natural progression to go to like this is another brand that's doing something similar to Lego, but in a space Lego doesn't do it. This
Yeah.
is another brand that is literally ripping off Lego, and this is another brand that is adding to Lego, but it's not Lego. So I think taking that umbrella term of fake Lego as in this is not a Lego item, but it's trying to be, just trying to kind of encompass what all is there, right?
Yeah.
And I would agree. I wouldn't even, those other, at the end of the day for me it's like If you do and create something that Lego doesn't, fair game, right? If you've got an IP that Lego does not, fair game. You made a brick, right? Lego lost their patent, tough shit, right? But if you're literally ripping off Lego, then ouch.
Yeah, I think it's sad to see companies do that. You can just go onto Amazon and see just what is blatantly, you know, uh, ripoffs of like Lego Star Wars, and it surprises me that that stuff's even allowed on Amazon. I mean, clearly Amazon and their standards have dropped enough these last few years where they're letting. I mean, because some of that's like blatantly illegal, right? Like, I mean,
Right.
you would assume Disney and Star Wars has the patent or licensing over what is the Millennium Falcon, and there's clearly companies that are able to just create what looks exactly like the Millennium Falcon and sell it for you know more or less the same thing. I think what I don't like about that, right, is there's somebody at Lego who worked really hard on that. There's somebody who designed it. In the case of things that are original to Lego, like their modulars, like something like that, somebody is building this idea from scratch. In the case of something like Star Wars, somebody at Lucas Studios designed that thing from nothing. That they put it into a movie, they put it into a show. It was done in the 70s and 80s out of modeling kits, right? Like, and now there's somebody who just is blatantly ripping it off and selling it
Right.
for a lower price, right? Like, I mean, I think that anyone would be upset if they put a lot of work into something and somebody else was profiting off of something unique that they created, and uh and you aren't getting any sort of acknowledgement or whatever, right? And that maybe is a little too simple for this discussion of like corporate law and issues of counterfeit and copyright infringement, but that's really
Yeah,
sort
if,
of.
if any listener is a lawyer and would like to be a guest on a follow-up episode, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that I would like to know, like you mentioned, right, like we know Lego lost their copyright to the brick, but like to what
Yeah.
extent? And you see a lot of even the modern companies like Kobe and some of the other ones who really are just, I mean, the bricks are almost identical. So just because
Right.
Lego lost the right to a 2x4, does that mean they lose the right to any of the new stuff that they've also created? I don't know, but I'm sure a lot of these companies are sitting there waiting to see what Lego does, and then they create it on their own, right?
and 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 vice versa too. I mean, there's times where Mega Block has some pieces in their piece selection that Lego doesn't have. In
Yeah.
fact, you could even argue that Lego then ripped them off and copied. I mean, I would, what came first here, the chicken or the egg? But
Well, it's
I do think,
intentionality, right, is what's important,
right,
because anybody could sit there and say like, well, we didn't have this piece that was a three long bar, cross with a two long bar out the center of the right side of it or something.
mm-hmm.
It's a ridiculous piece, but let's just go with it.
I'm trying to imagine in my head right now, and I can't. But that's okay.
Think of like a lightsaber, but with only
Kylo Ren's lightsaber.
like a T on a lazy T, a sleeping T, as if it was a horse brand. Um, or yeah. Anyways, the point is, right, like, somebody like Lego could be like, well, that's just a natural continuation of the three long bar piece that we've already created. So like, yes, Mega Bloks might have had it first, but like, it's a natural evolution of this piece.
Sure.
I don't think, like, we didn't necessarily copy them. We came up with this ourselves for our own purposes, and I think you pretty much could get away with that, right? Whereas, there are things that are out there that are very much like I said, like, I think you can go find them on Amazon right now, but it's the Millennium Falcon. It's not, you're not trying to hide that at all.
Right.
And it's under this brand called Star Warriors, and it's something named like Smuggler's Spaceship or something like that, right?
The
Like,
Centennial Falcon.
yeah. So I think it's really Millennium Birdcraft.
Han doubles.
Stupid.
Because
Um, well, who's that artist? San Holo, right? Like, there's all
yeah,
sorts of
there's a
weird things where
DJ.
they like change the names. So,
Yeah.
um,
I do, while we're on the conversation about what I guess I would call reputable competitors, right? Like a Mega Constructs, they really lean in. The system is similar, but they're not ripping off the Lego set itself, right? They're ripping off the system of Lego, but they're not they're ripping off, legally ripping off where they can in terms of the system. And I do think, as much as I don't really like Mega Blocks and never really had, um, like you mentioned, if you're not you'd buy a Pokemon set tomorrow if they had it, but Mega Blocks has had them for years. I do think at the end of the day, it's still good for Lego because it does lead to some competition, which helps keep prices in check, right? I mean, if people think Lego's expensive now, could you imagine if Lego had the patent to the Lego brick, I think governments would start getting involved and being like, no, you guys can't, you're losing your patent because you're now synonymous with construction toy. Like when your brand becomes that big, governments can tend and will tend to step in, right? So I do think it's good because it does drive innovation, right? It does add a little bit of competition for, like, to kind of keep Lego in check as a consumer myself, right? That's ultimately beneficial for me.
yeah, and like you mentioned, I mean, I think it's important, and I don't want this conversation to digress too much, but right, like Lego really has two different levels of competitors, right? It has its direct competitor, but then it has its competitors, which are just toy companies, right? Because Lego's
Then
creating
there's
a
a whole
toy,
other level of entertainment companies, right? And
right?
hobby.
Right, because Lego at some point is taking away your attention, right? Maybe it's not your full attention, but if you have 2 hours of free time in a day, are you going to go watch a movie at the movie theater or go build a Lego? And yes, I know people sometimes do both at the same time. It's kind of strange, but and I think probably people in the movie theater would get pretty annoyed at you crinkling your Lego.
Hey, babe, did you see my 1x2 anywhere?
Turn on your flashlight, like, oh, I dropped a piece.
This one comes with a light brick, dude. Shut up.
I'm trying to watch a movie.
Look, it's Daredevil, and that's Daredevil.
It's the small version of the guy who's right there. No, I think there's certainly different degrees of competitors, and I would agree. I think all of them keeps Lego sharp, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, right? Like Lego doesn't have like a right to existence, right? Like if the company really wants to make a decision and it ends up being a bad decision and they go bankrupt, like that's just sort of how life works. Um,
Yeah.
so they're not invincible. They're not too big to fail. They're not, in some sort of weird corporate protected status. They're just a company doing what companies do. I think like I said, at the same time, I really do struggle with this concept of somebody just blatantly stealing things. Now, I
Right.
want to change the argument a little bit and comment on, again, well, I guess it's not changing the argument too much, but the other thing that Lego has done really, really well is that they work on is their designing and engineering of all of this Lego system. I mean, it's really to to call it something less than a modern marvel, I think would be not giving Lego the credit where credit's due. Right? It's a
Yeah.
very fun sort of gee whiz fact that Lego is the largest producer of tires in the world. Right? Like that is pretty incredible. Now these tires aren't built to the same engineering standard that like
Really tiny.
road tires are, right? But they are manufacturing rubber at this huge scale that not any that dwarves giants like Michelin and Goodyear. Um, expanding that, right? Like the Lego system itself is just incredibly intricate and unique, and they build these pieces that continue to operate within this system. I think all of us have seen when you've taken a headlight brick and you take a um, a brick with kind of one of those indents on the side, a snot brick, right?
Mhm.
Um, where there's like a plate and then kind of like an almost a half plate, right? But then you can
Right.
take one of those sloped pieces and fit them together because the system is just designed in this really weird way where like the Lego designers have taken that into account when they've built things. Like it's
Yeah.
so cool to see, but like that takes time, that takes money, that takes just this incredible system to be set up. And so I do think it's just really disheartening to see a company go and just rip it all off and sell it under
Right.
their own licensing when they haven't put in that type of work. And that work that Lego has put in has just been, as somebody from an engineering background, I constantly marvel at the system that Lego has created and how intricately connected it is. And it's just so cool to see. And it's just, I mean, it's hard not to fanboy over that type of thing because it just really is. I mean, incredible. You know, you talk about something that just has put in so, like, there's just been so much love, attention, detail put into this system in ways I don't think the average builder of Lego really appreciates and understands. And so, yes, I is Lego expensive? Absolutely. Lego is very expensive. Do I mind spending money on Lego when I know that what I'm spending money on continues to return a very high level of production uh, throughout the entire process? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, very famously, it leaked that Elon Musk, in an internal email to Tesla, was complaining at how Lego had higher tolerances than Tesla did, who builds
Hmm.
cars. I mean, that's just, it's incredible that a toy company can build something to that high of a tolerance, and a car
Right.
company can't even do that themselves. Now, Tesla's never been known for their tolerances, so maybe not a great example, but there's plenty of other
Elon
companies
Musk is
out
a
there.
great person. What are you talking about?
So I think it's anything that is a ripoff, I think, or you know, very clearly a copyright infringement. I'm not going to sit here and say like I admonish anybody who buys them, but I just don't really want to engage in that myself. Um, I don't really want to encourage it, but I mean, hey, at the end of the day, everybody's a free consumer who are, you
Right.
know, free to consume however they would like. So yeah, that's my take.
So I love it. I mean, because that's, I think, really showing, because I think sometimes people get to this mindset of like, oh, it's just corporate greed. Well, Lego's so big, but like, no, like if a company can't protect their brand and can't build a brand like this, then what is the point? I mean, why put billions of dollars into something like this if somebody could just come and copy your homework at the end of the day, right? And maybe it's because I was the kid in class in college that was always asked if they could you know, if by other people if they could copy my homework, you know, and no, go do it, go do it yourself. um but I did want to just say something really quick too, because I can already, I can hear, you know, a listener saying, well, Lego never invented the Lego brick, which is true. They actually copied their brick from somebody named Hilary Page in 1940, but then they contacted them in the 50s, and they had no issue with them actually using the design, right? So they did the right thing. Um, and then they actually even purchased the rights from them and Page's family in the 80s to then fully be able to, you know, the rights and the trademark and all that.
Yeah,
um, so yes, technically Lego did copy somebody else. However, Lego built the brand, right? That was just, you know, that essentially what happened in a roundabout way is somebody was working on a product. Lego was like, "Hey, cool, can we do that too?" And they're like, "Yeah, you got it, whatever, no worries." And then they went back and were like, "Here, we're gonna buy the rights of all of this from you so that we can be the only one making it."
you know, and the other thing too, not to backtrack the conversation too much, is it goes
Backtrack, girl, backtrack that combo.
it goes more than just the designing of the brick, right? And it's also a chemical issue too of like what goes into the plastics. Not all of the plastics that Lego uses are the same across all of their bricks. And they do that intentionally, right? Some plastics are going to be better for the clear pieces. Some plastics are going to be better for the opaque pieces. Sometimes they can get away with plastics that don't need to have great clutch power on like their plant-based pieces,
On the
right?
whip,
The
the
exactly,
Lego whip.
right? Or if they
Yep.
want something that is bendable, yeah, that's going to have a different effect. And so I just again, if the engineering side of it doesn't, trip your trigger, then maybe the chemical engineering side of it might. And just the degree of like just again time and energy put into this product that's copied, and you see that, right? You see it when you build a set and people have reported like, hey, it doesn't fit together really well. These pieces are either under too much tension or not enough tension, and it's falling apart in my hands. Well, Lego builds the stuff that they build not only for showability but also playability too, right? So they're testing it and making sure that it, like, if it's a six end up set, that it doesn't like fall apart in your hands when you lift it off the table, or that if it would, then they build in a lift mechanism for you to hold it, right? Like, these things aren't just, it's just again all of this time and attention that's put into this set. um I just I it it makes me upset thinking about people just sort of ripping that off. And but again, right, like you hear the reports of people saying like, I put it together, the minifigure quality isn't good. So Grinch, I mean, I'm sure you've seen or heard people comment on that.
I I've done so. Yes, I have, and
Have you
let's
ever,
kind of
do you have fake Lego? Like, have you ever bought any or like received some?
mistakenly one time, and it was a Deadpool minifigure, and then I went and I bought the Lego set sealed.
Yeah.
That's why Deadpool is on my mind. Um, so and a good transition. So I think to kind of summarize, like we both have a very similar opinion on this. As far as like a Lego competitor, we get it. It's a necessary evil at the end of the day. We're just not necessarily interested in like mega constructs or Kobe, right? Even though I'd love Game of Thrones Lego, that would be super cool. I don't like Mega Blocks. I got into Lego because I like Lego, and
Did
I
they
love
have
some
the Game
random
of
Lego.
Thrones like IP?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, damn. That's awesome.
yeah. I know, right? So that's it's interesting because
Although
Mega's
such a
really
loss for
kind
Lego.
of, well, I mean, and they would never do it, right? Like they just Lego would never do Game of Thrones,
Yeah, there's too many
never.
wieners.
Yeah, there's way too many winners. Oh wait, what? No, so yeah, like
South Park's going through my head right now.
I'm just singing the South Park version in my head right now. I'm not gonna sing it because I think we can only get away with so many cuss words, thanks YouTube. But but yeah, so um, Mega always has operated in like, okay, we're gonna go after IPs that we like, Halo, Call of Duty, right? Lego's not gonna cover, is really not gonna touch those. And then you've got Kobe, like I'm gonna do military stuff, right? And I know there's a couple others, some focus more on race cars. But then when you get into the counterfeit brands, which is funny because I'm actually, as you and I've kind of been talking, I've been going to Lepin's website just to see what they still have, what they've cleaned up their act a little bit. Um you can still see some of like the old images where it's just like, come on, you guys, where but you actually can't buy it. So like, for example, if you go to the Star Wars one, they have a UCS executor, what is it called, executor Star Destroyer, right? And they've got the blue clone lieutenant looking over in the top right of they got Star, and then it's oh, it's Star Wieners. No, it says Star and then WNRS instead of Wars, but like the A, the N has got that like A design on it, and when you click on it, you can't actually buy that anymore.
Yeah.
You used to be able to literally buy that set with all that branding on it like that. You can't. This looks more like mocks now. So they've cleaned up their act a little bit because I know they got in a ton of trouble because they're literally counterfeit.
One of the
Um,
ones that I hear a lot about right now on YouTube is Funhole, which I think is hilarious to say. I'm not sure how any of those
that,
YouTubers have been able
that
to say that with a straight face,
oh, because it's whole
like
like the
W
entire thing, not like a
hole.
hole.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
still,
not
I
not
mean,
that not that fun hole.
I think a very great example of like translation not quite working. Somebody needed to sit there and go like, "Hey guys, are you sure about that one?" Um, but they create stuff too. And they're creating modulars, they're creating other
Hmm.
things, but people have reported that like they're just the quality is not there. So
Right.
I think it's interesting when people buy them. There's been YouTubers who are like, this is a really great way to get stuff cheaply, but I mean, like you mentioned in the displaying video, how if you put figures in, you know, Lego compatible pieces, like it can crack feet. It can,
Yep. Sure
like
can.
again, the tolerances are just not there. So you just don't know what you're getting into if you're wanting to mix them. And I think as again, as consumers, right? Like you have the choice, but we go back to this, right? My choice is I don't particularly want to engage in that. So,
Right. Yeah, and you asked like, so for me the reason I'm so, I mean, for all the reasons we talked about, the other biggest reason is like I have essentially invested in my Lego. I am invested in my Lego collection. So
sure. So for
anytime there's a
you,
counterfeit out there,
right,
it,
it's
it literally
undermining
could
the.
have a monetary,
Mm,
you know, discrepancy against me, right? Because if I will not buy a Lego Deadpool because somebody flooded the market with a bunch of fake ones, which is why that set is so much more expensive than just the Deadpool. I mean, the set sucks that it came in 2012, but like a sealed one's like $300 now, and a
hmm,
Deadpool minifigure is like 75. But you need to be very careful what you're buying, because there's a lot of fake Deadpools out there, and that makes it harder for me to sell mine, right? That's why I'm selling, if I were to sell it, I'd sell it as a whole with the set, you know and instructions. I wouldn't sell it individually because you just never know. So not only does it hurt Lego when counterfeits are out there, but it also hurts me because I've got a
mm,
huge collection, right? It undermines my collection, it challenges it, and so I've just have a firm stance against Lego knockoffs because of that.
yeah, I think that's fair. Like I said, I think it's just when you see how much money has been put into things, and how much time and energy, and there's people whose entire life work is designing these things for things to just
Right.
get knocked off is just it's just really unfortunate. And I think sometimes consumers are not as always, they sort of see it as like a victimless crime, but it
Oh, well,
does.
Lego has billions of dollars. Well, they only have that because they've created a successful product and protected that successful product.
Yeah, I don't think that necessarily gives somebody the right to rip off their work. You know what I mean? So,
Absolutely, it does not.
but at the same time, too, just because somebody likes Lego adjacent products doesn't necessarily mean that they're
Totally fine to like Mega
a
Bloks,
villain.
right?
And I
Right.
don't I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing either. And hey, if what I would say, because we've I think made our approach to this very clear, is if buying Lego new is too expensive, consider getting it used.
Hmm.
Consider
I
buying
mean,
it used because the prices for used Lego go down considerably. You can buy
you can
used
usually
sets
buy it for around closer to retail when it's used.
if
Not for the super
it's
desirable ones.
well, yeah, exactly. If it's even just kind of not super desirable, right? Something that was sort of random, go to your bricks and minifigures, buy the used sets that are complete in their little bricks and minifigures bags, right? Breathe life into another set that's already out there. Reduce, reuse, recycle. That would be my take on that. Go to Bricks and
Right.
Minifigures and buy stuff in bulk. Go to eBay and buy stuff in bulk. Go to your local yard sales. Go buy stuff in bulk. Facebook Marketplace. People are selling their, my kid's going off to college and I'm selling all the crap in his room. Here's this shoebox full of Lego, right? I mean, Grinch, you've gotten some pretty incredible finds from some of those bulk sales. I'm thinking back to the,
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's necessarily good advice. Like if you want the Executor Star Destroyer, like don't just be buying random bulk sets thinking you're gonna find it. Luckily, that would be like
and that's not necessarily what I'm advocating. I'm just saying, you can, for the price of something like that, if you were to buy those pieces, and that's a bad example, right? But I would just say consider what you can, recreating them as much as possible versus buying something that's a knockoff that's not the exact same. So, and
I
I've
see. I
seen,
see. More of what you're saying is like buy Lego and then make your own versus having because if you're gonna buy a knockoff, then do you care if it's 1-to-1 because it's already a knockoff?
yeah, and I just think that there's doing again more to recycle or reuse Lego that's already out there is better than engaging in counterfeit products, purchasing counterfeit
Sure.
products. I know for some of our listeners, that's not necessarily a satisfactory answer. It doesn't get them the set that they want, but maybe they also just
Neither does
need.
buying it counterfeit.
Well,
And I
yeah,
have a firm line. I'm going to be. I mean, that is the honest truth. If you want to go buy a movie, if you want to go see a movie, if you want to go experience Deadpool and the in-sync scene and all of its glory in the beginning of it, watching it on some shaky camera just doesn't get you there, right? Like, just go see it. Just go do it.
no, I mean, I think that's a really great point too. And at
And I
that
know
point,
that's a
then,
little bit of a harsh take.
well,
Again,
you
this is
know,
my opinion, but if you want the set, buying a counterfeit knockoff fake one does not mean you have the set.
and I think too, right? Like you spend $400 on the knockoff when the real one costs $600 or $700. Like I know that's more expensive. I know that's another $300 or $400, but maybe you don't need the set that badly.
Well,
That's
buy
something to
the
think on
other one.
too.
Buy the maybe that's where you buy the other ones used. So good example is we did the sports episode. I got really excited about the Lego soccer, and I wanted to go buy the little stand so I could build up my stadium around it, like was on the back of the box when I was a kid. So I went out and I literally bought the stands used and the light things used and the little entrance thing used, and I for like four stands, two lights, and the entrance, it was like $100.
Yeah.
If I had bought them all new, it would have been like a grand easily. But that's $900 that I would have spent that I can now spend on Lego. So, I know it's really. I mean, I was in my dark age once too. I bought every single module. I bought a green grocer this year. I get it, but I bought it used. I did not buy a fake one because for me, that new price meant that I just can't get other Lego that I want. So I was willing to buy it used. And guess what? It's the same. It's the same. It is a green grocer now, right? If you
And
bought
the
it
thing
bought a knockoff
too,
one, it's not.
in my experience, when you buy something used like that, if there's something that's scratched, it's really easy to replace. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're trying to replace like the bank windows from the brick bank, which cost $40 each, which is just
Not
insane.
anymore.
Are they better now?
Not the but yeah, because the botanical gardens came out in Friends and they redid the sand green window.
No, not those windows. The window panes that are printed are $40
Oh, the
each.
printed ones. Oh yeah, duh. Yeah. No, that
Yeah,
sucks.
and so I
But
mean,
if it costs you $800 to buy that sealed, and it costs you $40 to buy, or sorry, not 40, $400 to buy it used, if all you
yeah,
have to do is replace one of those panes, you have still saved $360.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Like when I bought the green grocer used, the guy told me, he's like, hey, there's some yellowing on these on some of the white pieces, and I said, "Well, how are the sand green pieces?" And he said, "Those are totally fine." And I was like, "I'm okay with it because I'll just replace the white pieces. The sand green pieces are what's hard to replace." And literally, that set was $1,500 cheaper than a new one. Insane.
Yeah.
Um, Wes, do you have anything else to add before? I think we've talked it to death. I mean, and I would say, and I understand um, some of my takes were a little bit harsh there, but that's ultimately it, you know, we wanted to be honest and transparent and true to ourselves and authentic. So that's the authentic take.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else to add other than I hope we didn't make it feel like somebody's a villain if they buy fake Lego. That's not necessarily the point. Our opinions are our own
True. Good
opinions,
good
and
call.
like we said, we're some of it might be a little irrational on our ends. I'm sure there's a little bit of fanboy mixed into it too, and pride in this thing that we enjoy, right? Like being a fan of a sports team. Lego's the sports team here for us, and this is just the one that we've decided to back. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the other ones are bad, you know, too. A little like Apple versus Android, I suppose. Like it doesn't make you a bad person if you use the other device.
If you're a green bubbler, you mean?
Yes. Well, that's showing our own
Just
preference
kidding.
there, but no, but you know what I mean? Like we're
There's
not.
actually there's a the U.S. is suing Apple because of their
They're
brand
getting rid of it.
or something. Because like, yeah, they're saying like you've created a like hostile environment where like you've
Yeah.
created a separate status because of the blue bubble versus the green. Which I mean, y'all heard me talk today. I think that's a total bullshit lawsuit. That's all I'll say.
Well, yeah, I mean there's more I think from a technical perspective as to why the bubbles are different colors than there is like a hostile
It was always a
environment.
blue bubble because of it was you were using iMessage, which meant
Right.
that you could communicate over Wi-Fi versus
Exactly.
over it versus over using your own data to send a text message.
And if you did send a green bubble, you could still send a green bubble, I believe, if you were sending it over text message. So
Mm-hmm.
that was always the difference, right? It's just
Even, yeah, even if somebody had an iPhone, if you didn't have Wi-Fi or yeah, you select send
yeah,
as text and it would send it as a green bubble.
yeah. No, so I think we're getting way off track here. But I would say that's kind of my last parting take or parting shot is just to say that, yes, Grinch and I do have some strong opinions about this. But no, if you are somebody who dabbles in any degree of some of the Legos competitors, some of the people who are maybe at risk or should be at risk of copyright infringement, like we don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. It's just not something that we partake in ourselves. So, like eating
I
mushrooms.
yeah,
I don't mean
there
the
is.
drug. I mean the actual food.
I was like, wait, what? What's what about mushrooms?
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, like, there's Mega Bloks is its own company, right? They're reputable, they're respectable. Kobe, all good. Brickmania, right? Brick Arms, Light My Brick. You know, we we wanted to talk about the kind of the um the Lego, the complementary companies to Lego, just have them in this conversation. But we are not necessarily saying that like a company like Light My Brick is like a fake Lego company by any means. They're very reputable at what they do. For me, the foot goes in the sand, the hard line gets drawn in the ground when it starts to become a conversation of counterfeit versus the product, right? When it's a competitor or a complementary product that's to be added to,
yeah,
I totally 100% support that at the end of the day. where I have zero tolerance for is counterfeits.
Now let's end our conversation actually with a quick update of where or what we feel about companies that sell Lego compatible. I mean, so there's Brick Arms, right? You know, there was that lawsuit just this summer with Lego, and that was it a Dutch company that did pieces for
HK
trains?
Bricks
Yeah, or was that, I guess, was that
and
Deutsch or was it Dutch?
Dutch.
Okay. Um, you know, and I think one of those things I do understand
HA
Lego's
Bricks.
attempts to manage their brand integrity, right? If somebody creates a piece,
HA Bricks lost.
yeah, I mean, I don't doesn't surprise me, and I'm not necessarily saying I'm anti somebody creating compatible things. It's just I I don't necessarily blame Lego for wanting to maintain the integrity of their brand. So, which they can't
Right,
necessarily
and
guarantee.
all I've got actually, yeah, I've got an actual like just a quick summation of that lawsuit. In short, HA Bricks was printing on and then adding ball bearings to pieces, which permanently changed the appearance and function of the brick, but still using a Lego brick with the Lego trademark on it, right, with the Lego logo on it, and that's just simply not allowed.
Yeah.
Where
And then
you're
selling it
printing on a
themselves.
brick, right, and then selling it under their own
I
name,
mean, you can buy
but then when you
prints,
open
like
the
printed
product, it
Lego
says
bricks,
right, right,
and I don't think
but you're not
Lego has any.
changing the function of that item,
Right.
right?
And I think that, you know, Lego's concern would be if you were to mix that with something else, it could break the other thing that Lego has, and then now Lego
Mm-hmm.
seems to be the one at fault rather than the person who modified the piece. So, but
Right. Yeah. It when it, and my guess is Lego honestly probably started going after them because so many people called their customer service being like, "Hey, I just bought your HA brick set, and what the hell, you guys? I want my money back." And they're like, "Sorry, we don't." But it says your name on this.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Alrighty.
all right. So that was our main topic. Let us know. Were we too harsh? Are we too harsh? Where do you stand on the conversation? There's no right or wrong answer here. Um, like I said, I default to the law. But let's go ahead and move over to what are we building? What are we building? West, what are you building this week?
I don't have a build this week. I apologize. It's been a busy week.
Ah!
We've been busy getting moved into our house. Oh, actually, I do have a
So you
build.
lied.
I didn't lie. I have the two new botanical sets that we bought at Costco. They were like $5 off. It's the plum tree and the chrysanthemum. Um,
Oh, like the new ones.
yeah, yeah, the new.
You got that new.
Yeah,
Nice.
uh,
Nice.
those are on my to be built, my TBB. So
Your backlog.
my backlog, yeah. So I haven't been building those, but I think I am going to get started on one of them this next week. As we
Nice.
go into the end of our summer and our Labor Day holiday here in the United States. That'll be probably my Labor Day plans. I might treat myself to something a little bigger. It's a lot bigger.
Do it. Do
I
it.
have my eye on the Lego Concorde,
West, this is your conscience speaking. Do it.
but I have not pulled the trigger yet. And my local
Pull the
Target,
trigger because then there'll be a bullet hole in the box. So just go and buy it.
has the new F40 Speed Champions. Have not pulled the trigger. I think I talked about that last episode. But anyways, I at minimum get the new Botanic sets, so I'm excited for that. And then actually, where I work, they have a 3D printing lab, and they posted something on Instagram of somebody actually building. There's a 3D file of somebody building an upsized Lego. Um, it's a vase, and so you actually it was made of a stud, one of the cones, another stud, and all of it's hollow, like they would actually be. So it's the hollow studs, and then somebody put the botanical sets into it, and so it looks like a bigger, upsized Lego vase holding Lego botanical stuff, and it's, excuse me, all done with 3D printed material. It looks really fun. I don't know enough about 3D printing to really engage in that, but I would love to build that this week. But I don't think I will. I don't think I have time. So, anyways, neither here nor
Okie
there.
dokie.
Something cool to announce.
So I've been doing a lot of building. There's going to be a new video coming out. I'll probably have it come out at the end of the week so that the episode can have its moment. And then I about my Lego display. I finally got all of that done and set up. So I'm starting to unpack my Lego. So I did a couple hours of unpacking this morning, and then of course I built some Lego. I rebuilt the Lego soccer stadium so that I could do that, and then I built the dragon dance from 2020 2019, from the year of the dragon, and then the ice festival from the same Chinese New Year line or Lunar New Year line. And then I also built the Wolverine adamantium or just like claws bust style set, which was really cool. And I feel like I built one more thing, but I'm just blanking on it because I built so much. No, I mean I had to like totally rebuild my Dolga door because um, it kind of fell apart in transit during my move. Um, but yeah, alas, so that tends to happen here or there with when you're moving Lego. But I had a busy Lego week, and I will have another busy Lego weekend next week, and hopefully I will be coming out with that final display video here shortly in the next couple of weeks. All right, so that was what are we building this week. We'll go ahead and move over to brick mail. Brick mail. We've got a lot to talk about here, so I'll take the first one because it's addressing me, I guess, kind of unbeknownst. This was a Spotify comment. Pat1 in 60 said, "Hey guys, love the podcast, but please, please, please stop typing and clicking your mouse while doing the podcast. 4 exclamation points. It's at the point of me not listening anymore. Angry emoji. Anyways, keep up the great work." Patty from Australia. Well, it doesn't sound like we're doing great work, Patty. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Patty was actually responding to the how to display your Lego collection episode, which I did at the beach without my normal setup. And I've noticed the clicks here and there in other episodes too. They weren't as bad as that one, but like I remember listening to that one afterwards, and I was like, oh my god, there's so many clicks. So as you can tell, the mic is much closer to my face this episode if you're watching on YouTube. And I have been clicking and typing throughout, and hopefully, it has not been picked up. I did a little bit of audio engineering and setup this past week of different setups. So I think I've got it in a good spot. But unfortunately, I've got my notes up, and every once in a while, I got to fact check something or something like that during an episode. So I can't totally get rid of needing to have to click and type. I also type notes of like when we start different sections so that it makes the edit easier. So that's just a little bit of behind the curtain stuff, but hopefully I've now got this set up to where you won't hear it, or maybe just one or two an episode versus like click, 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 click. I better stop so Patty doesn't stop listening. But did end the thank you for the productive feedback. Did end it on a positive note, which we always appreciate. So thank you for listening, Patty. I have been watching Lego Masters Australia season 4, and I'm about halfway through it. I gotta say, Patty, y'all's Lego Master show is way better than the US one. I mean, just way better.
Patty,
Like
that is
like
a molehill that
objectively
Grinch
better.
is
I will die
going to,
on that
yes.
hill.
So I hear that all the time.
And he still hasn't watched it, so I don't know what else to say.
I'm working through season
Like,
one.
it's. Have you even got through the first episode that we watched together? Did you go any
Yes.
further than that?
No.
What did you get to the grinder joke? Oh, dude, there's literally like there's like actual good jokes, like adult jokes in it, and like the competition in the episode, like I feel like Lego Masters US has gotten to the point where they're just trying to like make Lego more accessible, and like this, if anything, does the opposite because you're just like, holy crap, these people are amazing. So, um, which is how it should be, in my opinion.
I mean,
Wes, do you want to take the next one?
that's how you create masters. Mav he
Yeah.
has been messaging us on Instagram. He said, "I like the topic on this week's podcast. I wish I still had all my basketball minifigures. Lego definitely needs to continue the movie pop culture trend. Too bad Lego doesn't make military style sets because an F-15 with Maverick and Goose would be awesome." And absolutely, I think some there are a lot of different movie tie-ins from the 80s, but something like Top Gun would be huge. Although I think we're all aware of why we we won't see a Top Gun Lego set, but it would be really neat to see anyways. I'm sure
All right, Mav.
somebody.
Here's a yeah. Here's a question for you, Mav. If Kobe made a Top Gun set, would you buy it?
Oh yeah, there you
You
go.
can DM us on Instagram. But sorry, West, I cut you off there. I apologize.
No, I was just gonna say. Well, I think that was pretty much my train of thought. We both, I can, Mav, I can say for both Grinch and myself, we really did enjoy the sports episode and kind of recounting our own involvement with Lego sports. I'm sure I have some of the basketball minifigures myself still floating around, but those hinged legs, those springy legs, definitely made them less usable than the rest of the Lego figures. So.
It's
Grinch,
so funny when you're
what
like,
else we got?
I
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think the spring legs kind of like make it unique. Like now, like they were like hideous and they look ridiculous, but like now, like if you're like walking through a display area and you're like, are those springs in that person's legs? Because you can see like they're very
Mhm.
easily seen. Like it's literally and it literally looks like there's springs in them. So
They'd
I
be
think it's
great
funny.
in like gray to use in like a robot mock or something. You know what I mean? But like
Hmm.
an android or
Yeah,
something.
true. Yeah. All right. Next one is a iTunes review, 5 stars from Horse Lover 2247. Wow, love the content. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Horse Lover. We will. As a reminder, you can always leave us a 5 star review or a review on iTunes. If it's a bad review, reach out to us like Patty. Give us an opportunity to fix it, and we'll work on our best. But we always appreciate any sort of feedback, good or bad, so that we can get better.
Absolutely. Next, your boy Taco commented on our YouTube
Taco.
video. Taco, we appreciate it as always. He said, I love the soccer launching part, and I think it's really cool that they use that part for projectile launchers. And then he also complimented my choice of beverage holder, which, yep, you got a rep. It's not the greatest mug, but still kind of fun to drink out of it. Made a return this week.
And it's an official Lego product to stay on task with it's not a knockoff Lego mug. It's a legit Lego piece.
It is. It is. It even has the Lego printing on the inside, as one would expect.
Ugh,
So, um,
purist. I love it.
I think Grinch. I think we had one
Um,
more.
all right, yeah, and then holler at me on YouTube says, as a kid who grew up with Gremlins and Goonies, I love both sets. The Goonies set I think is exceptional. I'm not sure if those without the nostalgia factor will find the ship as cool, but that's just how nostalgia works. Nostalgia's fickle like that, huh? And
Mm,
in the same for a lot of other similar sets. I don't buy Lego sets on day
cruel
one and
mistress
typically wait for
nostalgia.
deals, but she is a fickle word that rhymes with itch. I don't buy Lego sets on day one, and I typically wait for deals. But that set, I can't wait to get my hands on to display it. Awesome. I certainly don't have the nostalgia factor with this one just because it was like a few years before me. But I can certainly see people loving it, especially when you think about Lego fans with disposable income and older Lego fans here. They certainly would like that one.
Mrs.
Right,
Grinch is
Wes?
joining us, or Mrs. West is joining us on the podcast. So
I'll get special guest appearance.
yeah.
All right, and that's a wrap of another episode of AFOLs Welcome. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to the show. If you would like to write the podcast, please email us at afolswelcome@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram at AFOLsWelcome. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next one.